Alright, it's recording.
Hey guys, it's Jordan. I'm going to tell you an old folk tale on the baker's dozen. This is my audience. Alright. So this folk tale began a long time ago, way back in Albany. Now most of the time it's pretty cold back there, according to this old folks tale. It started in the winter. It started with a happy man with a happy family and a business of his own. Although one year he discovered that his business was not as strong as he thought. He made these famous cookies that everybody ranted about. Although one day, close to closing, an old woman came into his store. She asked for 12 cookies that were the St. Nick cookies. She wanted 12, so we put 12 into a box. However, she demanded that she wanted a dozen. He said, well, that is a dozen. That's 12 cookies. I give my customers what they pay for. Well, no, that's not 12. I want 13. I want a dozen. I didn't say 12. He says, I give my customers what I pay for. You can either take it or leave it. The old woman says, okay, thank you, and walks out the door. The very next day, he discovers that he can no longer bake. He's having to have breads that will rise. They floated on top of rooftops. This is when he realized that he had been bewitched by this old woman. A few months later, the old woman reappeared at his bake shop, close to closing again. She demanded the same cookies, a dozen of them. He decided, instead of servicing her, he was going to curse her with very many words and say, leave my store. As she did. The very next day, cakes were stolen from his store. He couldn't bake a cake. His breads dissolved in the oven. His bakery was losing business and very fast. After about 3 months, he had basically no customers left. His family was struggling on, surviving, and he couldn't even bake anymore. But one day that old lady showed back up again. And when she showed up, it wasn't her. It happened to be the Lord. Now when the Lord showed up, he said, you need to give your customers what they ask for, out of the kindness of your heart. So the old woman showed back up the next day, close to closing again. And when she did, she asked for a dozen cookies. This time he had learned his lesson. He wanted this curse to be broken. He gave her 13 cookies, a baker's dozen. The very next day, he discovered he could bake again, and all was returned to his bakery.